Is close to being completed. Watch this. Well, apparently not.
Right now, the investigation is, I think, close to being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
All right, so here we are, 621 days. The witch hunt now may be almost over. So far, zero evidence of any collusion. And meanwhile, the President of the United States, he does have important work to do, namely the safety, the security of the American people. Now, let not your hearts be troubled. This is a president who keeps his promises. So I have a couple of questions for my conservative friends that are mad at the president for allowing Congress 3 weeks to do their job, make a deal on immigration, and open the government in the interim. Here's the question. Do you believe for 1 second, do you really believe the president has stopped his full-on fight over the border wall that he has promised? Has he not shown he is a tenacious fighter when it comes to keeping his promises? I've said this before. In my opinion, I don't care where the money comes from. I don't care how they get it, as long as they build the wall to keep us safe. So don't let what I believe to be a shift in strategy fool you, because I don't have any doubt at all that the president is going to fight as hard, if not harder, for the money for the wall. Because in this case, his fight is principled. Think about this. The president, he's talking about safety and security, even life and death of the American people. He talks about stopping drugs and cartels and gangs, human and drug trafficking. What were Chuck and Nancy? What were they fighting for? They wouldn't even talk to the president, wouldn't sit down. They abandoned in the process furloughed workers, DACA kids, dreamers. The very things they have said over and over and over are so important to them that the president offered to them just to cater to the radical and extreme hate Trump base of theirs. The only question now, are Democrats, are they willing to make a deal or not? Are they going to let the left run that party? Because in 3 weeks, Democrats can come to the table, work out a compromise that gets them the things they say they wanted. Remember, Obama's president, they sounded like Trump on the wall. But if Democrats are unwilling to fund the border security, the president can and the president should, and I believe will, declare a national emergency. And he will build the wall with billions of dollars in funds that he allocates. Probably going to take a court fight. Democrats will go liberal judge shopping in the Ninth Circuit. But as commander-in-chief, I believe on the law and the Constitution, this president's going to win this battle in the courts. And if not, he's not going to stop. He'll move to Plan C. So what we should be doing is putting aside political differences, working together to keep the American people safe and stopping the 90% of heroin from coming across our southern border, or fentanyl, which is killing people every day. Now, that's why a group of Border Patrol wives now have invited Speaker Pelosi to McAllen, Texas, so she could witness the effects of our porous border firsthand herself. Now, remember, she rejected a meeting with angel moms and dads while she was in her office. They were outside her office, wouldn't meet with them. And frankly, any future crimes, think about this, resulting from open borders, the Democratic Party will now own. They will be partly responsible. And sadly, it's unlikely that Pelosi will accept the invitation. By the way, we have a new 12,000-person strong caravan. What if they come to an area that isn't secure? What's going to happen then? Both sides are at risk. She doesn't seem to care. To Democrats, anyone affected by the shutdown or our flawed immigration system, even angel moms and dads, are just pawns in what is their political game. If Democrats think their resistance to border security somehow harms the president politically, well, they better start playing chess, because as more crime happens, as more drugs come into this country, they will get the blame they rightly deserve. Look at this new Wall Street Journal NBC poll. It shows the president's support remained steady throughout the shutdown. And according to other polling, the president's approval rating remains high in democratically held districts that he won in 2016. Also keep in mind, as former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich pointed out, in January of 1983, Ronald Reagan had a 35% approval rating. 2 years later, he swept 49 states and was overwhelmingly reelected, all because he kept his promises, fought for the American people, the economy turned around, fought against the far-left detractors. Sound familiar? And we can't predict 2020. We don't know what we'll be debating in 2 years, but it brings us to our Hannity Watch on the radical crop of 2020 Democratic hopefuls. Unlike 2018, This year is going to be awesome. 2018, they were hiding their positions. 2020, they're going to all try to out-radical each other. Get ready, because every Democrat who wants to run for president is about to take that hard turn to appease what is now the radical, extreme, socialist Democratic Party base. Take, for example, possible contender, Andrew Cuomo. Now, honest people can have a difference as to when life begins. He just celebrated a bill in New York State making late-term abortion legal. Now, according to New York State, you can get an abortion in the 7th month of pregnancy, the 8th month of pregnancy, and the 9th month of pregnancy. That would be called infanticide. Viable lives can now be destroyed with the seal of New York and Andrew Cuomo and the New York legislature putting their seal of approval. This is, frankly, I don't care what your position on abortion is, you know, for the first 3 months, viability, when you think life begins. But these are fetuses that can live on their own. It is grotesque, it is gruesome, it is extreme. And then there's California, Senator Kamala Harris. She just kicked off her 2020 campaign this weekend, but she laid the groundwork months ago when she was comparing ICE to the Ku Klux Klan. You may remember this.
The Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and
It
force?
was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware
protecting
that there's a
people's rights.
perception?
I see no
Are you aware that there's a
that puts
perception?
ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
I mean, these guys put their lives on the line to keep our country safe. Really? Now, comments like that only win the favor of radical, left-wing, extreme Democrats, and their biggest allies, of course, the mainstream media. Needless to say, they were very excited, the media, over Senator Harris's big announcement. Reminded me of their love of Obama. Take a look.
She looked presidential. There was just no two ways about that. The woman has a ton of class.
I don't know about you, but the second I saw her up there, I said, wow, she's got what it takes.
The most serious candidate getting in. By that, I mean a really well thought out argument for why she should be running.
I think she's going to be top tier right out of the gate.
She's clearly bright and, you know, has a new feeling about her. But this really came together.
I think she's incredibly dynamic and really represents the future of the party.
Wow, that didn't take long. Mainstream media is giddy. Some of Harris's policies are downright scary, though. Watch this.
I am running to declare once and for all that health care is a fundamental right. Education is a fundamental right. And we will guarantee that right with universal pre-K and debt-free college. I am running to guarantee working and middle-class families an overdue pay increase. We welcome refugees and bring people out of the shadows and provide a pathway to citizenship. Reproductive rights are not just protected by the Constitution of the United States, but guaranteed in every state.
Reading a prompter. Here we go again. Sound familiar? Now, it's pretty clear Senator Harris is trying to placate this radical socialist base, which is not going to be good for the country. Oh, Obama, 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, takes on more debt than every other president before him combined. So make no mistake, lofty big government policies, they come with a price. Now, for example, look at the people of Venezuela. They're paying that price. Once upon a time, remember, they were promised universal health care, education, and pretty much everything. Instead, what did it do? It ended up in death, destruction, and chaos. We now have 3 million Venezuelans fleeing their country because of poverty and hunger. Hyperinflation, 80,000%. home to the world's largest oil reserves, could be one of the richest countries, Venezuela, the poster child for socialism's failures. It's never worked. Food shortages, lack of public services, skyrocketing crime rate, full-blown health care crisis. For example, 2016 piece, New York Times, revealing gruesome details like the high rate of deaths for newborns and new mothers, basic supplies like gloves vanishing, patients having to retreat to the black market to get cancer drugs even and save their lives. And here's what's more scary. This universal health care nightmare, championed by the late Hugo Chavez, sounds eerily similar to the plans of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Total government control, massive new spending, more red tape, raising your taxes. By the way, how did Obamacare keep your doctor plan and pay less work out? But of course, socialists are never eager to talk about the costs, the real costs. Take a look.
Number 10.
Countdown.
Medicare for all. Is it too expensive?
No. People often say, like, how are you going to pay for it? And I find the question so puzzling because how do you pay for something that's more affordable? How do you pay for cheaper rent? How do you pay for it? You just pay for it.
Okay, how about some facts? Here's a reality. Study, George Mason University. This Medicare for All plan, it comes with a whopping price tag of $32.6 trillion. That's $3.26 trillion per year over 10 years. That's about almost every penny the government takes in every year. And Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, well, since we know you're watching because you like to take pictures and tweet us out, what's the difference between what you're proposing and what so many other socialist countries have proposed? How will a government take over private medicine? How's it going to be different here? How great do you think Obamacare worked out? Now, how do you guarantee patients' quality of care in a system devoid of any competition? Or will you start being honest with the American people and admit this isn't about making health care better. This is about government control, your power. You want the government to have more and more control of people's lives, health care, our wallets, our bank accounts. Oh, yeah, you don't like the Second Amendment. You don't like the freedom that America offers that has made us different and has created a standard of living that is the envy of the world. Joining us now, House Minority Whip Steve Scalise, along with California Republican Congressman Devin Nunes. Devin, let me start with you. We now see a pattern. That is pre-dawn raids, 27 guys, 17 vehicles, tactical armor, for lying to Congress? And what about all the Democrats that lied to Congress? I think you can name, you have your own list.
Yeah, seems it's a little overkill, but we're going to have plenty of people that actually the DOJ already knows about. We'll actually have to make it more public if they fail to investigate this. What I understand today from the Acting Attorney General's comments that he's anxious to get these inquiries and he'll take them seriously, so I'm happy to hear about that. So we'll be glad to oblige him with plenty of names of people who have lied to Congress.
Okay, so if we have equal justice and equal application of our laws, then all those people should get the Stone, Manafort, Cohn treatment. If it's fair, right? Equally applied?
Well, not only that, but this is also, remember, all of this dates back to Clinton opposition research that was fed into the FBI to start this investigation. And so, you know, we have a whole bunch of work to do. So Republicans working with the Intelligence Committee, Judiciary Committee, and the Oversight Committee, we're going to continue our investigation into these abuses, and we're going to call people to come and testify to us. We're not sure that they will, but we don't have subpoena power anymore. But I just want to make sure everyone understands these people are not going to get away with this without us at least trying to hold them accountable.
Well, Lindsey Graham has promised in the Senate that he's going to continue. Steve Scalise, is this overkill? And where's the FBI director? Is
Sean,
he
it's a good
approve of
question.
Lying to Congress deserves 27 individuals pre-dawn guns raid into their home for lying to Congress. Is that appropriate in your view?
Well, I mean, if you look at this whole thing, it was about collusion with Russia. between whether it's the Trump campaign or the Hillary Clinton campaign. We've seen, and Devin Nunes, when he was chairman, his committee did thorough work to look into this. There was no iota of collusion. If you look at all the leaks that have come out of the FBI, which, by the way, why aren't they sending some of those agents that are out there doing all this overkill to find out where all the leaks are coming from and address accountability within the FBI? Where is that collusion? It would have leaked out. There is no collusion that we've seen.
Is there any doubt in your mind
so what is this about?
That what Hillary Clinton did with her emails that were subpoenaed, deleted, bleach bit, hammers, SIM cards removed, is there any doubt that's obstruction? Is there any doubt that when she put that server in a mom and pop shop bathroom closet that had top secret classified information, is that a violation of the Espionage Act? And was the FISA courts lied to repeatedly? And they purposely withheld information, gave false, unverified information to those judges?
The FBI's never given us real good answers on that. And it doesn't pass the smell test, Sean. When you're doing that kind of damage to a server, not only are they banging it with a hammer, they're throwing it against the wall, they're bleaching it. What are they trying to hide? And who's going to look into that?
But that gets to the heart of the Stone charges.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, and Michael Cohen admitting that he lied before Congress. Chairman Nunes, do you see any difference here? Is it worse in the case of Hillary? Because I think it's worse. I think a fraud upon a FISA court's worse.
They're not even close. Look, no one should ever lie to Congress. And look, everybody has their day in court, so I'm not going to prejudge anyone. If someone says they're innocent, they have a right to a fair trial. But the obvious one that you pointed out, Sean, is the Clinton server disappearing. That wasn't only obstructing a congressional investigation, that was obstructing an investigation at DOJ. Look, we have James Comey leaking classified information. You know, that's never been investigated. We can go on and on with the list, and that's what we're going to get to the bottom of, with or without the Democrats, if they want to cooperate or not.
We never seem to get there. We seem, we have all the evidence on our side, and we never get to that. Mueller never touches, their Russian lie is fed to the American people. All right, last quick question, if you don't mind. So, do you agree with me, Steve Scalise, that in fact the president, he's not stopped fighting on the wall. He's probably going to go the national emergency route if in fact Congress cannot do its job in 3 weeks?
I agree, Sean. And look, President Trump called Pelosi's bluff. She said she won't negotiate on the wall until the government's open. Well, the government's back open. She has yet to put a dollar figure, literally $1, against $5.7 billion that our experts who risk their lives to protect the border say it's going to take. It's about border security. It's time for Pelosi to say what she's willing to support, or is she for open borders?
All right, guys. Thank you both for being with us. All right, a lot of news to get to tonight. A huge show. Roger Stone up next. Then an exclusive one-on-one interview. Christie. And later, our villain of the day. You're going to want to know who this is. Straight ahead.
To storm my house with a greater force than was used to take down bin Laden or El Chapo or Pablo Escobar, to terrorize my wife and my dogs, it's unconscionable. I would have been more than happy. They knew I was represented. Had they contacted my attorneys, I would have voluntarily turned myself in. I would have been able to wear a suit and tie for my mugshot. It would have looked a lot better.
Roger, always caring about fashion if you read Roger's rules. Roger Stone this morning blasting the treatment he received from the FBI. Heavily armed officers, 27 of them, 17 vehicles, pre-dawn raid, guns drawn on his house amid lying to Congress, the Mueller investigation. Meanwhile, Stone is expected to be arraigned tomorrow in D.C. on 7 counts, including lying to Congress. Joining us now with reaction, author of the book, The Myth of Russia Collusion, the inside story of how Donald Trump really won, Republican strategist Roger Stone. Let's get into the pre-dawn raid and all the people that we mentioned in the last segment that we know lied to Congress. It doesn't happen to them. Hillary got a pass by a guy that interviewed her that said he wanted her to win $100 million to zero. What do you make that this only happens to you, Manafort, and Comey, but none of these other people that lie to Congress? And not saying that you did, by the way.
No, Sean, it's extraordinary. Comey, Clapper, Brennan, McCabe and Hillary themselves all lied. And in their case, they lied about material, consequential things. To the extent that I made errors of memory in my 4.5 hours of voluntary testimony, they're inconsequential. This indictment is thinner. You can watch CNN. They'll tell you it's a slam dunk. My attorneys don't think so. But I'm targeted here because they want to silence me. I mean, I'm 66 years old. I support the Second Amendment, but I don't own a firearm. I don't have a valid passport. I'm not a flight risk. The court gave me, essentially released me on bond on my signature, proving I'm not a flight risk. I can't swim, even though they had 2 amphibious units pulled up to the canal behind my house. They completely surrounded my house with assault weapons. I really can't. Assault weapons pointed at my chest. I opened the door, looking down the barrel of 2 assault weapons. I am wearing a Roger Stone did nothing wrong T-shirt and a pair of gym shorts. I'm barefooted. They handcuffed me, walked me out the street. I'm concerned because my wife is hearing impaired. She's virtually deaf without her hearing aids. She hadn't awoken. I was afraid that they would think she wasn't complying with an order and shoot her. And the idea that they had to do this because they were worried that I would tamper or destroy evidence is absurd. I've been under investigation for 2 years. Why would I wait till Thursday? By the way, I've destroyed no evidence whatsoever. And I'm charged with non-violent process crimes.
Here we go again.
No
and that's
conspiracy.
The point here.
Exactly.
It raises a lot of questions beyond the double standard, too. It raises questions about the tactics. But if we have a dual justice system in this country, say goodbye to the country. And I'm serious. This should be nonpartisan. That for something like this, if there's no Mueller investigation, there's no jeopardy at all for anybody. And then you have to think of what Judge Ellis said. Are they putting the screws to you so you'll sing or compose and say what they want so that you don't spend or risk spending the rest of your life in prison?
Well, I think to a great deal, this is meant to silence me. I mean, my radio show at Infowars.com and our program is heavily censored. It's very hard for me to get the opportunity to defend myself. When I came out of the courthouse, I was being shouted down. I couldn't even make a statement. This is a not only effort to silence me because I support Donald Trump and I've been a critic of the Mueller investigation, and I think Donald Trump is making America great again. He's my friend of 40 years. I have great affection for him and his family. I am not going to testify against him because I possess no negative information. There is no Russian collusion. This is a witch hunt.
Now, wait a minute. Wasn't everybody, after the first WikiLeaks dump, wasn't everybody trying to find out? Because WikiLeaks has a history of never being wrong, whether you like them or not. They've never been wrong. And the fact, everybody was speculating. And with all due respect, in one of your emails that's even mentioned in the indictment, your speculation that whatever's coming next is about the Clinton Foundation, you were wrong, which kind of proves that you were fishing and digging and trying to find out what might they have. Let's find out what they have. You did not steal anything. You did not conspire to steal anything. And the Pentagon Papers case, my reading of it is very clear. By the way, the New York Times published WikiLeaks, as did all these other publications, is that as long as you don't conspire to steal, you can print, you can go with stolen material of somebody else, correct?
Yeah, yes, they're trying to criminalize legitimate political inquiry. They're trying to criminalize free speech, which is really what this is about. Look, I honestly believe that they are going to try to charge the president and the vice president with some hoked up frame of Russian collusion. That way they could make Nancy Pelosi president, she could make Hillary Clinton vice president, and then step aside. It's a nightmare, but I think that's what they have in mind. There is no Russian collusion. I had no collaboration with WikiLeaks. I'm not charged with conspiracy. Believe me, if they could have made that case, they would have. But they want to silence me because I will stand up for Donald Trump. That's what this is really about.
You proudly say you operate in political dark arts, meaning you also purposely try to mess with people's heads. Is that a fair characterization?
Well, Sean, in all honesty, I got a tip, a legitimate tip, that told me that the WikiLeaks disclosures were significant and that they would come in October. I hyped that tip relentlessly to drive voter attention and media attention to the ultimate disclosures because I was told they were a bombshell. That doesn't mean I knew what was in them. That's called politics. It's legal.
No,
That's
by the
what
way,
I
you
do.
were wrong on one of them. Your mention of Podesta, you were talking specifically about one Podesta, were you not? And
No,
their
I was
work
actually
with the
I was
Ukraine,
talking,
correct?
No, I was talking about both Podesta brothers because on July 31st, Peter Schweitzer wrote a devastating monograph called From Russia with Money about John and Tony making millions from the oligarchs around Putin in aluminum, in uranium, in gas, in banking. And then on the 14th of August, Breitbart published another story by Schweitzer tying Tony Podesta to the same Ukrainian political party as Paul Manafort. So I said the Podesta's time in the barrel would come. What I was saying was I intended to get that information on a background basis to a number of reporters. Any other narrative about what happened there is false. And there was no controversy about my tweet for 6 weeks until it is alleged that Stone was foreshadowing Podesta's emails being stolen. Let me be clear. I never knew the source or the content of any allegedly hacked or allegedly stolen emails. That is a lie.
You know, Alan Dershowitz said it well, and I think this evident in all of this 621 days. We're criminalizing political differences. We've got a dual justice system. That is a clear and present danger to this democratic republic. I'm sure it's not a fun time for you and your family. This shouldn't have happened in a lot of levels. Where's the collusion? There is none. None. All right, Roger, thank you. All right, when we come back, a must-see interview. Former New Jersey Governor Christie. He's got a lot to say about the Trump presidency, exclusively in studio when we get back. Straight ahead. All right, joining us now, former New Jersey Governor Christie, out with a brand new memoir about his time in New Jersey politics in the 2016 campaign. Let me finish. Trump, the Kushners, Bannon, New Jersey, and the power of in-your-face politics. Available on Amazon.com, wherever books are sold. Governor, good to see you. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, Sean.
Before I get to all the political stuff, you know, do we really need 27 FBI agents, tactical gear, guns drawn, pre-dawn raid, 17 vehicles, including armored vehicles, to arrest a guy that has no weapons in his house, a guy that is charged with lying to Congress?
No. And listen, you know that I've defended Mueller over the course of time, over the last 18 months or so.
How can you defend this man?
I can't defend this.
No.
This
How
is
can
wrong.
you defend Andrew Weissman, who, with his record, and Jeannie Ray, and every appointment as a Democrat?
Listen, I can't defend Andrew Weissman. I wouldn't defend Andrew Weissman. But what I'm telling you is that this is a problem for Bob Mueller.
Why couldn't he find a Republican? Why can't he find? How does he hire Clinton Foundation attorneys?
And listen, and part of that, by the way, part of that, since almost every one of those people came from inside the Justice Department, part of that problem is that there was no turnover when Jeff Sessions was Attorney General to get new people into those positions. How's Andrew Weissman still the head of the fraud section of DOJ for the entire time that Jeff Sessions is the Attorney General?
4 Merrill executives to jail for a year, overturned Fifth Circuit, 9-0 loss in the Supreme Court, tens of thousands of Enron accounting employees lost their careers.
Of course. And so to me, why was he still in the Justice Department? To begin with, how does the Attorney General of the United States permit him to be in the Justice Department? And on the raid...
But wait a minute. This was Mueller's choice to put Weissman and Jeannie Ray on this team.
I understand.
And all Democratic donors.
John, I understand. I'm not defending that. And I'm not defending the raid. The raid is wrong. There is no reason. If he did not have weapons in that house, there is no reason to go with tactical units, with flak jackets on, with automatic weapons and all the rest. There's no reason for it except to intimidate. That's the only reason to do it, and that is an absolute inappropriate use of prosecutorial authority.
You talk about that the president thought if General Flynn's fired, the whole Russia thing is over. Obviously not the case.
Right.
And you say one of the reasons you don't believe it is because as every campaign is, there's chaos. Nobody has time to say, oh, let me meet with Putin.
No, listen, I was there for a good part of the campaign, as you know, and then moved over to the transition. But as I said, this was a campaign, and you know about this campaign, and I say this in an admiring way, having lost to them and having them won the presidency. This was not a traditional organized campaign, and they were not going to do some Tom Clancy routine with Russian collusion when they were still trying to figure out how to hire field operatives in Pennsylvania. We know that was the situation there. That campaign won because of the power and the ideas and the articulation of Donald Trump. And that's what you hear from me in this book, Sean, is that...
You would thought he talked to you about being vice president.
It was down to me or Mike Pence. Absolutely. And
you mentioned me in the book. Thanks a lot.
Well, listen, you're part of the story of that vice presidential section.
I love being mentioned in the book.
Listen, it could be worse.
What? Why do you tell stories like the story about McGreevey? Why do you talk? Why? Because to me, it's like, all right, that's sort of private between you and him.
I think that's, well, first of all, it wasn't, because there were a whole bunch of people that we were all talking at the same time.
You didn't have to put it in a book.
No, but listen, I think it's an important thing to show this president's humanity and to show his sense of humor. You know, I think he's drawn by the mainstream media as a cartoon character. And what I show in this book is, this is a guy who's a great father and loves his children. And I tell those stories in the book about his genuine concern as he got closer to the presidency about what effect this was going to have on his kids and on his kids being able to be successful in the business and him always being there for them. And now he wouldn't be able to because of this job. I talk about the great sense of humor that he has and the jokes that he played on me. I talk about the fact that he's the first person who sat across from me and said, Chris, you need to get lap band surgery. Years before I decided to do it. What I'm trying to show by telling these stories is the humanity of Donald Trump, because people draw him like a cartoon character, and he isn't. He's much more complicated than that.
You're a prosecutor. Did Hillary Clinton violate the Espionage Act with that server?
Yes.
Did Hillary Clinton obstruct justice with the subpoenaed emails deleted?
If she deleted those emails while the subpoena was pending, then yes.
Okay. Do we not have all Brennan, Clapper, all these people that I mentioned? Did they not lie to Congress and got caught? How come they don't get the raids in this case?
So why don't you take an hour one night and have Jeff Sessions on here and ask him those questions?
Jeff Sessions, I don't know what he was doing. I always liked Jeff Sessions.
But that's my point.
But it turned into a disaster.
Who you pick as Attorney General matters. And it's one of the things I talk about in the book. The president has been victimized by some bad choices that were recommended to him and by a process that didn't work well for him.
Aren't you worried, as a former prosecutor and governor, that we have a dual justice system? We have all these other people that lied either under oath or to Congress. Nothing happens to them. For example, Hillary funnels money, her money, campaign money, through a law firm, so it's a legal expense, to hire an op research group, right? Hire a foreign national, which is wrong, who uses Russian lies that they spread to the American people before the election, and then they use it to bludgeon the president ever since. But then they go to a FISA court. We now learn that everybody in the FBI and DOJ were warned by Bruce Orr that Christopher Steele hates the president, then the candidate Trump, that Hillary paid for it, and that it's unverified. How do you not verify? And it turns out a lot of it's lies. Hookers, Ritz-Carlton, Musk. How do they get away with all of that, and Mueller pays no attention to it?
First of all, we don't know whether he has or he hasn't yet.
Bull. I don't see it at all. You know that.
Listen, but we don't know yet. So let's wait for the end of the report. But here's the other thing. Let's say he isn't paying attention to it. Where was the Attorney General of the United States?
Okay, you keep going back to that. But Mueller hires a team of Democrats and a pit bull, Andrew Weissman, and Clinton's own former attorney.
And by the way, I'm not defending those hirings. But what I'm saying to you is, if in fact that's what's going on, and Mueller is independent of what they're doing at the Justice Department.
You trust this guy? Why would Mueller put that team together?
Here's what I believe, is that right from the beginning, the Justice Department under Donald Trump was not running the way it should have been run. And because of that,
I got that
mayhem.
point.
There's mayhem.
Last question.
You can't divide the two. But one other thing, the most important thing you said tonight, and the reason to answer the question you began by asking me, is, of course I'm concerned about this, because if we don't have a fair justice system in this country, democracy is over.
Our republic's dead if this is allowed to occur.
And that's exactly right.
Last question. FISA court, there was a conspiracy to commit fraud. They never verified the lies that they put in the document. They minimized Hillary's involvement. Shouldn't all of those people now themselves pay that price?
Every one of those people who participated in that should be subject
Comey,
to exactly,
Rod Rosenstein,
to exactly
Yates?
the same scrutiny. To exactly the same scrutiny that Bob Mueller has given to all of this other
But it's
stuff.
not happening, Chris. It's not happening.
And Sean, and that's why I hope that the new Attorney General that the president has picked will do this, because guess what? This is the job of the Attorney General of the United States. And I was a U.S. Attorney for 7 years. And you know what we had? We had one of the best Attorney Generals this country's ever had in John Ashcroft. He never turned away from anything. And in a time when our country was at grave danger, post 9/11, John Ashcroft empowered his U.S. attorneys to stop terrorism, and we didn't have one attack afterwards, Sean. That's an effective Attorney General.
Chris Christie's book. Let me finish. By the way, you always finish. All right, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, when we come back, we got reaction to our interviews. Luke Rosiak, Pam Bondi. Wait till you hear about today's villain of the day. This is insanity. You won't believe it. Straight ahead. Let's see, hacking that nobody seems to know about, that actually was maybe as bad or worse. It's called obstruction of justice, how the deep state risked national security to protect Democrats. Florida's former Attorney General, thankfully so, I'm sure, Pam Bondi. All right, let's talk about the raid, and let's talk about Mueller's team, which I was talking about with Chris Christie. Pam, is that the type of country we are? Is there dual justice?
Sean, you know I've prosecuted since I was in my early 20s. I have seen murder defendants, rapists, child molesters get arrested who had warrants out for them. I have been there when the police arrested them. I've seen nothing like this in my entire career. Roger Stone is not violent. No one in the world would ever think he is violent. I've never seen anything like it.
Lying to Congress? You do this for, what is he, El Chapo?
I can't imagine, and especially, I mean, that puts people at risk when you enter a house that way. I've never seen anything like it, Sean, again, with violent murderers, nothing like this.
You went into this whole Iran case. There was a bigger scandal that the media ignored. To the extent you can, explain it.
I mean,
this book is phenomenal.
This is really just such a big juxtaposition between what you see with they're knocking down the door of a 66-year-old fashionista because he tweeted about WikiLeaks. That's the closest they got after 2 years to, foreign meddling Russia. 3 days after WikiLeaks went online, they found an actual Pakistani guy hacking Congress, and the FBI was weaponized in the opposite direction.
This guy got money from Iran?
He's taking money from foreign governments. He's sending devices over to Pakistan.
You believe, an intelligence official for Pakistan, and 44 Democratic congressmen. He was in charge of their IT secrets, government secrets?
Right, and so the FBI comes in, and the Democrats want this to go away. The FBI and the Democrats, they basically frame and fire and drive out the investigator. They threaten a witness. You've got his own wife. He's confessed to her, and he's begging the FBI to do something, and the FBI is, basically threatening her.
You look at all of this, Pam, and look at the team that they have. They only see things one way. Why?
Sean, that's the question. Unless they're so laser focused on taking down the President of the United States, there's no explanation for it. And they're not going to be able to do that because President Trump has done nothing wrong.
All right, Pam Bondi, thank you. This book is phenomenal. You really need to read about the real hacking story that was covered up. Luke, thank you. Great investigative work with the Daily Caller. When we come back, you're not going to believe the villain of the day. That's next. And your emails. All right, our villain of the day is one of our old foes on the left, and even for him, Bill Maher had some just nasty, disturbing attacks on Covington high school students and all Trump voters. Take a look.
I don't blame the kid, the smirking kid. I blame lead poisoning and bad parenting. And oh yeah, I blame that f***ing kid. What a little prick. Smirk face. And the poll numbers are showing that there is. He's probably at his lowest now. It's like 34%. But those people, I promise you, are not going anywhere. That is Mrs. Goebbels in the bunker with the cyanide.
And if a conservative said these things? All right, now last week we asked for your comments, Democrats' agenda, using the hashtag Hannity question. @SheTheMom wrote, why do the Democrats yell out Medicare for all? They do know it's not for free, don't they? Now, before we go, every night now we're going to start reading more and more emails. And by the way, which Democratic potential presidential candidate scares you the most? Send your comments, hashtag Hannity question. Head over to my website, Hannity.com. You can even put a video up, and at Sean Hannity on Twitter. Let not your heart be troubled. That's all the time we have left. We're not the hate Trump media. Laura Ingraham, tonight in D.C. Laura, take it away.
American way. Of course, the next best thing to a seat in the stands is a seat in front of a 19-inch RCA Victor television.
One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
Agree with all the obstacles and with all the enemies who are between me and
This is Times Square, 42nd Street.
Transfer is available. 1.